Awesome. So you guys are on the path. You understand the importance of persistence. You know exactly how to get there, reasons to be there, and the need to get there. Today we're going to elaborate on that. We're going to focus more on how to absolutely crush everything you do by mastering the symptoms of persistence, overcoming all barriers you might have, and then focusing in again on just the huge importance. You got to remember, you can literally close deals just by being persistent. And the same thing applies to trades. The same thing applies with any kind of marketplace timing where you want to go out there and freaking crush it. It all comes down to this baseline trait of persistence. So with that said, let's go over to the computer. Let's make it happen. Let's get it done. It's going to be amazing. So excited for you guys. Let's get going. So first thing we're going to go through are some of the top symptoms of a lack of persistence. Now Hill points out these top 16 things because they are basically the enemies that stand between you and noteworthy achievement. So to get to achievement, you got to overcome these. Here we're going to look at weaknesses and things that indicate weakness of persistence, and also understand the subconscious basis of these weaknesses. Remember, it's super important to study this list and know who you are, right? You got to understand yourself. If you understand yourself, you can improve yourself. If you can improve yourself, you can grow. If you can grow, you can think and grow rich. That's the point, right? So make sure what you are capable of doing. You know what you're capable of doing. These are the weaknesses that must be mastered in order to accumulate riches. So with that said, let's go to number 1. Failure to recognize and clearly define exactly what you want. You don't have a definite desire. We've covered this so much before, but I want to dive in on it, push it hard. Got to make sure you have that overarching goal with the secret formula. Number 2, procrastination, with or without cause, usually backed up with a formidable array of alibis and excuses. So, same thing as before. Procrastination. What did we say was the enemy of procrastination? You guys know this stuff. It's persistence. It's decision. If you can decide to do something, you have to stick with your gut and freaking get it done. Once you can get stuff done, you're going to radically transform your position. You're going to radically transform your life, because now you're in a mindset that you get things done. You don't procrastinate when it's something that you know is important, that's part of your A game, that you need to focus on. You get it done. Number 3, lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. This is huge. Gotta have specialized knowledge. If you're not interested in acquiring specialized knowledge, then I would go back and look at your secret formula, because your secret formula should pull you towards it. And you want to make sure that if you need specialized knowledge to acquire that goal, that your goal is powerful enough and moving enough internally for you to really get you off your butt and out there doing what you're doing right now, right? Taking development classes, taking anything related to the field that you're in. Just depends on what your goal is, but you want it to be something so big that it pushes you over the edge to keep acquiring specialized knowledge. School doesn't end after you graduate. It's a lifelong process. You're learning and learning and learning, but try to learn from people that are actually freaking doing it. That's the important part. That's what you can use to master and get the best teachers in your life. They're going to have tremendous success through teaching, through mentorships, through coaching. All 3 of those are some of the most powerful ways to instantly go from where you are right now to where you want to be. It all comes down to leveraging other people's experiences and using those as a form of growth for your insides and your outside results to transform your life and get to your overarching long-term goal. So I'll go number 4. Indecision. The habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. You gotta make decisions and do it. Can't be indecisive. Let stuff flow away. That's just not how you're gonna have long-term success. It's a shame. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Number 5. The habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for solutions of problems. Excuses. Somebody else's fault. couldn't do it because of XYZ. These things that aren't me are at fault. Look, guys, here's the deal. It's all you. I don't want to hear an excuse. I don't want to hear any, like, that's it. It's only you. The only person that can determine your success is yourself. No one else. It's 100% you. All right? You might get lucky. Other people might help you. Build a team. That's great. Whose responsibility is that? It's yours. It's all you. You cannot make BS excuses. I've seen so many people do this, and it's wrecked their lives. They focus on other people, the government, excuse after excuse after excuse. If the reason you're failing, and if you can think of the reason you're failing, and you're not the reason you're failing, then you're lying to yourself. Overcome all obstacles. It's up to you. Success is your duty. Make it happen. All right? Sound good? Let's go to number 6. Self-satisfaction. There's but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. So lack of satisfaction. That is terrible, man. Terrible. Remember, most important thing is satisfaction with the work you're doing, the goals you're setting. Like, you want to make sure that you satisfy yourself, and the best way to do that out of the gates is to reward yourself. We talked about this earlier, thinking about your accomplishments, appreciating everything that you do every single day through a daily journal. Appreciation. Recognizing accomplishments. And then just having overarching gratitude, right? Like, these are huge, huge, huge ways to just skyrocket the satisfaction that comes from the work you do. As long as you're creating your overarching long-term goal, you're making your secret formula, and you know what you want to do. So that should in and of itself be satisfying as you're working towards that goal. But remember, along the way, we talked about this earlier, thinking about all the amazing things you're doing rather than the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Huge, huge principle that you can apply to appreciate what you have, recognize your wins, and have daily gratitude. And of course, the best way to do this is through a daily journal with reflection every day. And that's just going to boost your morale, boost your mindset, boost your mentality, absolutely destroy the total growth of your personality. When you have personal growth, leads to business growth, leads to family growth, leads to success growth, everything you want to get to that overarching long-term goal is going to come from your ability to be satisfied with what you have and be so rich and enjoy and fulfilled from what you're doing and what you have that you already feel a sense of satisfaction before you get to your overarching long-term goal, because the pleasures in the journey and that end destination is just a very small piece. And for most people, that satisfaction when you finally get to that end point is only going to last just a little bit, and it's this massive, massive amount of time where you're actually getting there that everything happens. I'll give you guys an example. I was writing the book, and at this massive, massive amount of time, I was writing, and then I was editing, and then publishing, like the photography, stuff like that. And this was a very, very small part of it. This was like the vast, vast majority was writing / like research, miscellaneous research, but mostly writing. Then there was this last little bit at the end where I got published. And in that last like 10 seconds of it, looking back, that's when everybody freaked out. That's when everyone around me praised me for, writing a book. And that's where all the satisfaction is and all the excitement. But it doesn't last particularly long. This was about a period of maybe like 5 days from just crazy high, my head is on fire. I'm so pumped up, freaking best time of my life in the whole world. To 5 days later, I'm like, okay, what's next, right? Not satisfied. Very, very thankful, very grateful for what happened, but you move on from stuff, and you want to get satisfaction in the moment. So in the moment, and still, I'm super satisfied. I'm ridiculously happy about the book, but now my focus is on getting in front of more people. Now my focus is on serving more people, helping more people to grow real savings and retirements, right? It's just a piece in the puzzle. And so you have to be satisfied with what you have. And at the same time, it's a tough little difference because you do need to be able to move forth, continue growing. But after these 5 days, and I finally, settled down off the high, I took a day, and that was my reflection day. That was my first reflection day since I started writing the book, which was 7-8 months ago from that day. So that was huge, huge, huge for me, because I had a reflection day before I started writing the book, and in that reflection day, it was very brief. There was the initial impulse, obviously, to write it, and then I had a reflection day after that impulse to confirm it, and then I made the decision to transform the next, about half year of my life to dedicate all my time to this. And so having that reflection day after, reflection day here at the beginning, and then reflection day after I accomplished that goal, this is where I decided that I was going to write the book. This is where I had to figure out what's next. Because this is also where I figured out what's next from the trading, from the teaching, from the company. So you take in the past, you're satisfied with it, you're grateful for it, you go into a reflection day, and then you take action. And then I came into a reflection day here. I was satisfied with it, I was grateful for it, and now I've transitioned onto a major, major journey that I'm sure you guys have seen over in the general membership area, more so in the lines of online marketing and having a massive impact on people, which is huge. So that's the journey I'm on right now. And then after I'm done with that, I'll have another reflection day, right? I had a reflection day recently after a ton of education. That was about probably about 2 weeks ago. And in that reflection day, I realized, okay, I've got all this knowledge, I have all this information, I've gone through all this amazing content. Now it's time to produce these other assets to bring value to the marketplace. And so for me, that meant figuring out my focus again. I had drifted into a lot of sales stuff, so I had to figure out exactly where to go, and that's where I planned out tons and tons of plans for the info products and just overarching growth principles for this. I mean, this is where this is stemmed from, is all from a reflection day, taking in satisfaction and then moving on to the next level of growth. And that's the most powerful place you can be in, because all of a sudden you're having massive growth, but at the same time massive appreciation. And if you add growth plus appreciation, I don't know if this is going to fit on this page, but growth plus appreciation, all of a sudden you're going to have ridiculous success. And that's so powerful. It's just up and 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 up. So stay satisfied, make it happen, and find your success from that to create your persistent mastery and understand yourself, because it just takes time and the process comes in and out, but the most important thing is that you know exactly what you're doing. And once you have that down, you can use daily journal and tools like that, reflection, meditation, whatever you need to absolutely crush it and have total satisfaction in everything you're doing, even in the face of hate, even in the face of change, even in the face of other people dragging you down, because you know at a fundamental level that you're gonna absolutely crush it. So it's really powerful stuff. I'll have the daily journal below. You guys can grab your journal. I'm sure most of you have, and then freaking change your life through reflection, planning, growth. It's insane. So powerful. So with that said, let's go over to number 7. Indifference. Oof. Can't be remember, we talked about this earlier, the idea that you have to be polarizing and you have to have a message that sticks and affects people. Indifference is usually reflected in your readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. Guys, you can't satisfy everybody. You've got to stick to your guns, stick to your base, stick to your specialization, serve the exact market that you want to serve, be it through employment, be it through creating products and services. Whatever you're doing, you have a niche, I don't know, it just depends on your overarching long-term goal. Stick to it and be the absolute best at it, and you're going to find surreal success. You don't have to be everything, you just be you. And then go 100,000% on that one thing. This is what we talked about with that book, the one thing, right? One thing. You got to stick to that. You don't want to be indifferent. And I'll link into the one thing, but whatever. The point is that you're focusing on yourself and your occasions, and you're not letting the opinions of others and statements outside of you sway you, right? Like we talked about earlier, successful people, quick to make decisions, slow to change them. All right? Sound good? Don't change for other people. Do you. Number 8. The habit of blaming others for your mistakes. Please, guys, Don't blame others. Talked about this earlier. It's your fault. And accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. Total BS. You can avoid pain and loss through education and assistance from mentors and masterminds. You can't blame other people, and you just can't accept anything as like impossible or unfavorable or unavoidable. Like everything is solvable. If you set your mind to anything, you can make it happen. So don't blame people when things don't happen, and at the same time, make sure that you understand that anything can happen with persistent, constant drive towards your burning desire. Super powerful concept. You can go out there, freaking crush it. There are kids, there are adults, there are elderly people, every aspect of the human race. They're doing exceptional things with their lives every single day. There is not a reason in the world that that can't be you. Go out there and completely ignore everything holding you back and absolutely crush it. Bam, let's go to 9. Weakness of desire. Oh, this is that thing that we talked about earlier with persistence. When you're saying your overarching long-term goal twice a day, that's going to really pump up your desire. That's going to really increase the impact you can have by shifting sort of your desire, right? So you want to increase the strength of your desire. The best way to do that is to increase the frequency of reciting your long-term goal to twice a day. So just follow the secret formula and you should be good on this part. Weakness of desire due to neglect in the choice of motives that impel action. Oh, of course. So also, you want to pick strong motives, right? So pick very strong motives. I know people, this guy, he runs a company, and his whole thing is he goes to these people that have parking spaces, and they have cars, right? And their cars come in, and the cars, they park on the side of the street. And what he does is he runs a startup where they have these cameras, and these cameras come out, and they're on these poles, and they monitor the parking spaces. And so they can tell if there's a car in a space, and they can also connect up with the parking meters, right? So people pay at the parking meter, and then they have these cameras that use like computers and artificial intelligence to see if your car is there. And if your car's there and your meter goes out, it'll like call the cops and be like, hey, this guy needs a parking ticket. Which is kind of it sounds worse when I say it like that. But it also helps them like measure how much their parking is utilized, stuff like that. It's got a whole lot of applications. It's pretty freaking cool. But you might be thinking, well, why would somebody make this? Well, besides the fact that, giving people tickets all the time, really came from this internal desire of his to reduce wasted construction, right? So with parking decks, and especially in big urban cities where there's a ton of people parking everywhere, a lot of times if people stay over the limit on the meter, and they don't get a ticket or they don't get towed or anything, which happens a lot, right? The cars just sit there, and it looks like the parking lot's super full, even though they should technically be leaving, but they aren't, right? So it increases the amount of spaces that need to be built to accommodate for this little, slip up. And that slip up is a serious mess up, because now you have to build more parking spaces, you have to use more asphalt, you have to create multi-layer parking decks. I mean, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of materials, it's a lot of energy, and it takes away from, the environment. It takes tons of manpower and resources. And also, see, like you pour down black asphalt somewhere, like that's really gonna hurt the environment, which sucks. And so he's like super passionate about that stuff, which is awesome. So he built this system so that he could actually help like decrease the waste in parking usage and, increase total parking lot efficiency. And when you increase parking lot efficiency, one of the best ways and easiest ways to do that right now is to just get rid of the people that are staying for too long and reward the good guys, right? And that's what he uses computers to do, since it's a much more effective way than actually, having someone out there looking at every single parking meter over and over and over. It's just, you got a car, if you have a cop and a cop is in their car and the car has to go to every single spot using resources, using time, using energy, using people, using gas. I mean, you're clogging up the road, creating traffic. That's just bad for the environment. It's bad for the city, bad for everybody involved, because there's a serious disconnect between, you know, what actually happens and then obviously them not seeing this stuff's wrong. So this parking system is really cool because it automates all that stuff and it gets the problems taken care of, right? You get a couple of parking tickets and you're not going to stay extra anymore, are you, right? So the point with it is that it increases the efficiency of the system, and then they also do a bunch of other really cool stuff. But it all comes from this motive that he has, this strong internal desire. And that's an internal desire that's going to push him through to future success. So all of a sudden, you're looking at significantly stronger reasons to succeed, right? So it's not easy to manufacture stuff like this. You got to go. He went through a lot of companies to find a reputable manufacturer and a lot of coding, right? And a ton of team, huge support. It's a big startup. They're a multi-million-dollar project, and so the ideas behind it and then the growth behind it, it's all fueled by this idea that like we're going to create a cleaner tomorrow. And that's what pushes them through the toughness. That's what forces them to go harder and harder and harder after reaching failure, right? They went through tons and tons of venture capitalists to try to get this thing started. And the thing that kept pushing them through failure after failure, like with funding rounds, right, was this idea that like they're going to change the way people look at parking. And that's exactly what they've done, which is so cool. So please make sure, this is like step 2 of your secret formula. You want to make sure you have strong desires, okay? Number 10, willingness, even eagerness to quit at the first sign of defeat based upon one or more of the basic fears. So just quitting in hard times. Now this sucks. You kind of have to keep pushing through. You guys know this stuff. It's all about consistency. It's all about freaking getting out there and doing it. Which is super important for pretty much any situation. Something to consider though is to make sure you're on the right path, right? Sometimes you've got your goal right here and it might be that you accidentally are going this way, and it's super difficult to keep going this way because maybe this way isn't the way you're supposed to go. Maybe you're supposed to come back and go towards the path again to get to your end destination. But at the same time, it could also be that you're going towards your destination. Maybe you go this way a little bit, but you come back and you're on the path. And then there's this roadblock right here. And maybe this is a really big roadblock. So it's going to be very difficult to go around it because it's just such a big block. And you have to push through. You have to put in the effort. You have to break through that block, get to your long-term desire. That just comes through effort, energy, and grind. You can't quit when the throwing gets tough. You got to keep going, especially if you know you're on the right path, if you know doing the right thing, and you know that you ought to. Push through it, make it happen. Some of the toughest advancements, some of the most difficult gains come after the hardest times. And once you have the darkest times, it's right before massive success. Same thing applies in financial markets. You have massive crash in a stock price, or at least with like an index. It's always darkest right before the dawn. Then there's like massive gain afterwards, right? So it's this pressure point right here that you just have to push through emotionally. You have to push through financially. You have to push through psychologically. It just depends on the situation you're in. But you master that to the best of your ability. Go through it, make it happen, and you absolutely crush it by going through, not quitting, and pushing harder and harder and harder until you have the success that you desire. Very powerful stuff. So let's go to number 11. Lack of organized plans. Huge. Remember, this is like step 4 in the secret formula. Lack of organized plans. So you're going to create these plans. Placed in writing, or they may be analyzed. Write down your plans, man. If you got a team, if you have a group, even if it's just you, it doesn't matter. Always put the pen to the paper, write down the goals, write down the plan, write down everything. It'll make it 100 times more powerful, without a doubt, give you tremendous clarity of focus in everything you do. And if you're working with a team, everyone will be on the same page, growing and succeeding through the power of the written word. Let's go to number 12. The habit of negligence to move on ideas or to grasp opportunity when it presents itself. Hesitancy. Guys, hesitancy sucks. And the way to overcome it is not necessarily the most easy. You got to freaking do it. But more importantly is the background. So let me give you an example, right? If you look at, there's this one position, I was trading this morning actually, and they open up pre-market and they have this massive run up, okay? And massive run up. And then there, I'm going to draw a VWAP line. VWAP is in like chapter 27 or something in the book. VWAP is like super freaking cool. It's amazing. They broke through this VWAP. They had this massive gain. And then the VWAP is kind of like that. And then they come down off this high. And they're coming down. Then they have this one candlestick where this is like the body. This is the top. And then this is the bottom, right? Now, if you guys recognize anything from this, you know that that's a hammer candle. And we talk about that in chapter 23, I think. And so, like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, whoa, it's a hammer candle. So, like, I'm scrambling. I'm like, because I'm on my laptop. And I was working on course content. The market opened, and I was like, super fun trading day. Got into it real quick. Then I realized I couldn't find my phone. And at least right now, the way I'm doing it is I'll do orders on my phone. Since I'm sitting here recording this course, I just have my laptop with me. I don't have my actual trading desk, which is whatever, right? It's definitely losing me money. I should totally get the real trading set up. So the next candle is green, and then I pop in on it right here, and then they go up about 20%, and I got out, which was sweet. And then they traded off, and then they came down for the rest of the day. But it was a little bit of hesitancy, and that hesitancy, just lost me out on a little bit, because these hammer candles are really strong setups. So based on that, right, like there's this upside here, but it's not a huge deal, right, if you miss out on it, but it was a pretty solid chunk. So I had to like go get my phone, wasn't ready, had to hesitate, I didn't have the tools ready. So a lot of times just a matter of having those tools there and having the background set in place, and you can reduce your hesitancy significantly by making sure you know what the heck you're doing before you start doing it. So please, right, like get through this course, get through these trainings, get through the the general stuff, the book, whatever you're doing. In any aspect of your life where you have that overarching long-term goal, you want to use that as fuel. But you also want to make sure you got the background, you have the preparation for it. You go into whatever you're doing prepared for it to a certain extent, to an acceptable extent, right? Like you know what's going on, and you're 100% certain that like you're there, you're going to crush it, you know what the heck you're doing. And once you know what the heck you're doing, you have the background for it, you're going to be ready to take whatever you're doing and master it at the point of entry, at the best possible time to do it. So I'm applying this to financial markets. You can apply this into a deal. You can apply this into a negotiation, right? If you're going into a salary negotiation and you didn't do your prior research on what the average pay range is for the position you're applying for, and this is a strategy that's developed in Never Split the Difference. It's a really great strategy negotiation book, Difference, about negotiating, and a lot of really applicable marketplace skills and terminologies based on the idea that you can have one of the concepts, right, is if you have a pay range. So if you're looking to make, you're at a salaried position and you want to make, say, $90,000 a year, you would say, well, most people get paid about $90,000 to $124,000. You would use specific numbers. That's also a big one, right? Use specific odd numbers. So maybe say something like $93,000 to $127,000 per year, something like that. If you're looking at like just a negotiation for a salaried position, and then naturally people they'll look at the lower end of the spectrum, and they'll also look at the specific odd number and know that you freaking know what's up. So you want to go in and understand that like the average salary for whatever you're looking at, maybe it's $95,000, maybe it's 90, maybe it's 85, something like that. Then you just push it up a little bit, because obviously you want to get more from the people you're working with. Increase the value, because you bring the value to the marketplace, right? You know that you have that value, and you're just trying to realize it through pay that's appropriate. So go into the negotiation, go into the deal, go into the market, whatever you need to do, but make sure you have that background. And if you have a very solid educational background like what you're learning right now, it's going to help you decrease hesitancy exponentially and drastically increase the results that you can create in the marketplace at any given moment. So, really powerful concept, and I hope it helps you tremendously. Again, check out Never Split the Difference if you want to negotiate. I mean, pretty much all of life is a negotiation. It's a ridiculously strong skill to have, and I would highly recommend. I'm gonna finish my VWAP here. That was about what it did. It was a freaking good trade. Good day. I was happy with it. So, with that said, let's go on. We have just a couple more to do. 4 more. And we will move on to our next little thing. So, number 13. Ooh, this one's bad. This one, please focus on this one. I'm gonna write this one in orange because it's important. Well, I'll write it in green because it's important. Green is the important color. 13. Wishing instead of willing. Now this applies after you've actually figured out like where you want to be, what you want to do, the field you want to work in, your overarching long-term goals, stuff like that. But once you figure that out, once you know exactly where you want to be, you got to recite your long-term goals, follow the secret formula, but you got to be willing instead of wishing. If you just wish for stuff, the universe is not going to respond to wishing. You know, the world won't generate wealth for you because you wish for it. You have to be willing to put in the work, willing to take out the pain, willing to be consistent, willing to be persistent, willing to have the desire, willing to have the burning urge to get it done. Not wishing that you have the burning urge, not wishing that you are persistent. You know, the person who wishes that they were in the gym 5 times a week versus the person that's willing to go to the gym 5 times a week through the power of habit. It's a fundamental shift. It's a fundamental difference between those two people. One person has a 6-pack, the other person's on the couch. Which one do you think is going to be more successful? The person who's wishing, the person who's willing. You are here obviously shows that you're willing to grow. Not wishing. People that are wishing, guaranteed, might buy this and then just never go through the course. How come? They see success, they see Think and Grow Rich, they see growth, they see power, and they wish they had that. But they're not willing to go through the steps. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. It's insane. So make sure you guys are doing a great job. You gotta be willing. Take that pain, make it happen. All right? Sick. Number 14. And that applies to like financial markets, jobs, whatever you're doing. You gotta be willing to put in the work for the position that you're in, whatever you're trying to do. You got to be there every day for the market to have those massive gains. It's huge, huge, huge stuff. I was working with someone made $50,000 yesterday. You know why? Because they're willing to sit through every other day that sucked. And they kept going. Didn't wish for it. They knew they wanted it, and they were willing to get it, and they made it happen. It's crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. It's amazing. All right? The habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. A general absence of ambition to be, to do, and to own. Bam! You don't have the drive, you don't have the ambition. This is something I hear so much. It all comes back to that secret formula. Once you have that overarching long-term goal, it should pull you through this problem. It should allow you to succeed and create tremendous persistence, tremendous mastery at understanding yourself. Create an abundance of ambition in everything that you do because you know how important it is and you focus on the significance that you'll have to be yourself, your future self, your better self, to do your goals, your actions, your plan to get there, and to own yourself, your responsibilities, your future, all based on your ambition. So make it happen. All right, 15. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving, a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling or endeavoring to drive sharp bargains. I mean, taking shortcuts. Can't take shortcuts. I'll tell you what. Yeah, we were at this race one time, and we're going around the race. The whole time we were there, it was like pouring rain, and so we were running a majority of the race in this forest, and like it was so crazy. There was mud everywhere. There were like pools of water, and the trees, it was a forest, right? But they had a bunch of like the race refs were in there, and we were all running through this massive forest, and there's refs everywhere, and there were like hills, and these hills, they were so muddy because this was just a regional race, so I didn't wear spikes, and few people wear spikes, so they were like these hills, and they were so muddy that like you would have to get on all four and like crawl up the hill because because it was so muddy. You would just like slip and fall on your face if you tried to run up it, and then you would have to run down it because it was a circle, so you would go in this circle, and then you would have to come back to this hill and then run back through this whole course again, because it was a loop, right? And so you go and you go and you go, and we're all running and running and running. We're freaking filthy, mud everywhere. It was so much fun. It was amazing. And we start to get to this finish line, and at the finish line, like basically everybody is like caked in mud. I mean, I'm pretty sure like a vast majority of people, including myself, fell at least once in a giant puddle or on this like giant mudslides all over the place. But it was a 5K. I mean, we ran the 5K and we did it. It was pretty. I think I got close to setting a PR, which is really interesting. But I know a lot of people, they did insanely well on that race. It was so fun. But we get to the end, and at the end there's a track. All right, and you enter the track on one side, and you enter it right here from the mud, from the forest course in the forest. And you go around the track and you get to the finish line right here. Now, I got a question for you guys, okay? If you get to this track and you get right here and you decide that you're just going to run straight across this track and cut off the last 250 meters of the race, do you think they're going to qualify you as a winner at the finish line? Do you think you'll be seen as a success by the crowd of people standing here in the bleachers screaming at their faces out while it rains on them? Or do you think you'll be seen as a cheater and a failure? It's not even a question, right? Can't take shortcuts in life. Just can't let it happen. You can do all the work up to that end point, but if you even cheat just for a little bit, it's that last part that matters. Never take shortcuts. Throughout the race, if you try to take a shortcut through the woods, what would happen? You'd fall on your face, might hurt yourself, might break a leg. I don't know. The course was the only part of this forest that was carved out of the trees. It was the only thing that was trailed. So there were giant rocks all around us, except for on the trail. If you tried to cut through that trail and cheat, you'll fall on your face, hit your head on a rock. That's a serious injury. That's bad. Because it was so wet and so muddy and so slippery. But it was safe as long as you stay on the course. If you try to cheat, though, you're going to get punished by nature. You punished so hard. People that tried to go around this massive hill, the refs pushed them back on the course and said you can't cut through the grass. It was grass near the hills. It was grass since it was open air. There weren't trees there, and they got pushed right back on there. Can't cheat. Got to do it right. Take this mentality. Apply it to your business. Never take a shortcut. So when you cross that finish line, you should be caked in so much mud and have so much to show for what you've done that it's not even a question. Like, of course this guy ran the race. Of course he went all the way. Of course he committed to his goal. Because you've shown the evidence. You've created the results. And you've done the work to get there. Super powerful concept. Please apply this and absolutely crush it. Okay? Great. I'm going to erase this just a little bit, and we're going to go to number 16, our last point on persistence mastery. Number 16. Fear of criticism. Now this is a really big one that Hill says should be number one, but it's not number one because he's going to talk a little bit more about it in just a second. Failure to create plans and put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in the subconscious mind without being recognized. Fear of criticism embedded in the subconscious. Guys, this is tough. I know it sucks. But you seriously, you cannot care about what other people think. You just can't do it. If I was running that race and I was like, oh, I'm going to look dirty and silly, how you think I'd run? I'd look like an idiot. I would have had a terrible time. But instead, I went all in on it and almost got PR. It was really cool. It was like a couple seconds off. It was awesome. And so I kept going hard. You just can't be afraid of criticism. You can never be afraid of criticism. Just don't let it happen. It's not even a question. The fear of criticism, for the majority of people, they let friends, they let relatives, let the public influence them so much if they can't live their own lives because of the fear of criticism. Huge number of people make mistakes in marriage. Stand by the bargain and go through life miserable and unhappy because they fear criticism that may follow if they get a divorce. Anyone who's in a terrible relationship understands fear of criticism and the irreparable damage that it does, destroying the ambition, destroying your self-reliance, and destroying your desire to achieve. Over all else, you need to put you as number one and focus on number one. Millions of people neglect to acquire better education after leaving school because they fear criticism. It's terrible, awful, ridiculous. Countless people wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear criticism. Duty does not require any person to submit to the destruction of their personal ambitions and the right to live life in their own way. But people refuse to take chances at business because they fear the criticism that might follow if they fail. Can't feel failure. Can never fear failure. Failure is a part of the game. Failure is a part of the options. We look at the S&P, right? Over the last, 2 decades. It depends on when you're watching this. Huge dot-com burst. Complete failure after that. Huge run-up. Complete failure in the '08 crash. And then today, I kind of cut that chart off a little bit short. But everything's cyclical, right? Huge failures come. This would be something like the NASDAQ. You can't worry about this. You have to get over this fear of failure. Because only when you're totally at peace and connected with what you know can happen and the downside that you understand you have, can you say, you know what, that's okay. Only when you can accept this fear can you overcome it. Can you work past it? Can you find alternatives? Can you find better investments? Can you find new ways to beat the game? You have to be okay with failure, and you can never care about what other people think. The fear of criticism in such cases is stronger than the desire for success. 100,000%. If you're so worried about what everyone else thinks about you, you're going to have a tremendous problem pursuing your own success. Great example of this. I was on a business call working for Monero ads during graduation practice morning. Now everyone else shows up to graduation practice morning. We're going to take a bus to the graduation place. And then once we get there, we practice for a couple hours and then go home. Everyone else just shows up in like jeans and a t-shirt. I'm in like a full suit because duh, I got business to do. What are you talking about? It was a Saturday. No, yes, yeah. No, it was definitely a Friday. It was a Friday. I mean, that's a business day, right? You're getting trades done, making bank. So I'm here doing business calls, and then I finish, and then I'm just kind of like reading because got to get these book review videos out for you guys. And everyone's talking in groups or whatever, and I'm just like sitting there alone because whatever. And I'm talking to some of my cool friends because I know it's important, and I could definitely just chill out with whoever I wanted. But I had stuff to do too, so you gotta focus and completely ignore the fear of criticism of people saying, why is that guy on his phone, instead of, I don't know, people were just standing there talking about crap, didn't matter, you know? And it's like cool, because like at graduation practice, we got to talk a bunch, socialize a bunch, have a ton of fun. But like on the way there, like I had stuff to do, you know? It was just dragging on from the morning, because you start the day at 4, I mean, I'm not done at 9, it's not a chance, right? So just had stuff to do, and you know, definitely focus on what matters. And for me, and for you, sometimes what matters will get you criticized. You have to be okay with that. I feel like a total idiot when everyone else is over here doing their thing, having fun, talking about crap doesn't matter. But who's creating more value in the marketplace? I think it stands for itself to say that a vast majority of the time, the people that stand out and the people that are outliers are the individuals that had the biggest impact. And I don't know, it's a really powerful concept, and it's something that I wish I could elaborate more on here. But I'll tell you what, I'll link below my book review video of Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. That's an insane title. It breaks down so much of the underlying principles of success that you can use immediately to have tremendous wealth creation in your life. That's a insane book. I'd highly recommend you guys check out Outliers, add it to your library, because it's killer. It's really powerful. And that's the kind of mentality that pushes you over the edge. To overcome that fear of criticism is the idea that these uber successful individuals, like, you know, he talks about Bill Gates in Outliers, and Bill Gates in this book, right? Why you think he did that? Because he was that one kid who was on the computer for like 12 hours a day, every day. And where did that get him? It got into one of the most successful positions on this planet. So please, understand, fear of criticism, total BS. You need to focus more on your desire for success and just completely ignore others. Too many people that are trying to drag you down. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves, or even neglect selecting a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends who may say, don't aim so high, people will think you're crazy. Guys, this is total BS. This is exactly what Grant Cardone talks about in Be Obsessed or Be Average. It's this idea that other people are just going to drag you down in vast majority of situations. And you can't be average. You can't do what the average person is doing and expect to have tremendous success and achieve those overarching long-term goals, as long as they're like freaking huge. If you want to have that massive success, you got to take massive action. Great example here specifically with Hill. When Andrew Carnegie suggested that Hill devote 20 years to the organization of a philosophy of individual achievement, to writing this book, 20 years. His first impulse was fear of what people might say. The idea that this goal was far out of proportion to anything he had ever conceived. As quickly as his mind could think of these insane excuses, it began to create excuses about his inherent fear of criticism. Something inside him said, you can't do it. The job is too big, requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you? How will you earn a living? No one has ever organized a philosophy of success. So what right do you have to believe you can do it? Who are you, anyway, to aim so high? Remember your humble birth? What do you know about philosophy? People will think you're crazy, and they did. Why hasn't some other person done this before me now? It's all these ideas that people say in your head, that you say to yourself, that individuals say to you, criticism, many other questions flash into his head. And it seems as if the whole world suddenly turns its attention to Hill with the purpose of ridiculing him into giving up the desire to carry out Mr. Carnegie's suggestion. That's huge. That's ridiculous. I'll have a video below. It's something I did like this a while ago, where it's like you can't. And it was all the crap I heard from other people telling me what I was doing was impossible and it could never happen. At least some of the biggest things I heard in the past. I released it like a while ago, but it's probably like the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 years, something like that. And this idea that if you had the opportunity, you have to overcome these objections. You have to make sure that you're able to maintain ambition and control it. After having analyzed thousands of people, Hill discovered that most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through definite plans and immediate action. Just gotta freaking get it done. And that's the power behind everything he's focusing on, everything he's talking about. This idea that you have to nurse the idea to birth immediately, because every minute it lives is a better chance of surviving. Longer companies in business, the better chance of success. Same idea. Fear of criticism is at the bottom of this destruction of most ideas that never reach the planning and action stages. And how do you get to the planning and action stages? You just have to freaking stick to it and make it happen. That's the power. You saw this earlier with FedEx, right? They lost tons of money at the beginning. Fred Smith, massive losses, but he just kept going. He didn't listen to the people that said this was a stupid idea, you're not going to succeed. What did he do? He made it a great idea. He made it succeed. Why? Because he freaking knew. He had total belief and conviction, and he was persistent with his efforts. Many people believe that material success is a result of favorable breaks, and that there are elements of ground for this belief, but they depend entirely upon luck and nearly always disappoint because they overlook the factor of persistence, because it's knowledge and persistence that favors breaks in time. So if you want to get lucky, luck is simply a result of persistence and a definite aim and plans for exactly what you want to do, and just pursuing that to have tremendous growth in your life. And that's how you're going to create massive, massive success. We're going to look at one great case study for this, and then we're going to go into the top 4 immediate steps to develop persistence in a very simplified, compacted, and power-effective manner. And then we're going to move past that into how to apply those 4 steps. Sound good? Sound awesome? Let's make it happen. So, Tom, I'm gonna write his name down so you guys can see it, because I don't know how I'm pronouncing it. Monaghan. Tom Monaghan, all right? He started Domino's Pizza. And he decided he was gonna take this one store that sold pizza and expand it into this massive, massive, massive chain with stores nationwide, thousands and thousands across the globe. And he grew and grew and grew his company to several thousand home delivery outlets after 30 years. Now, I got a question for you. How long is 30 years? That's a long time. He spent 30 years expanding his company. He spent 30 years opening new pizza stores. He spent 30 years building up his business, and he decided in 1989, after 30 years of work, he was finally going to sell and go into philanthropy and just enjoy his life. Mostly philanthropy, which is super, super cool. We talk more about that in Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. Because in Money Master the Game, he focuses a lot towards the end on the insane value of giving and how that can create tremendous pleasure and growth in your life. Really, really powerful, powerful concept. And you see it exemplified here in Tom's life, which is awesome. And I'll link that below. I highly recommend you guys check that one out because it's super, super powerful. And just some content that can seriously change the way that you look at charitability and using that as fuel for long-term growth to achieve those overarching long-term goals. It's fundamentally shifted how I look at allocating my income, especially into charitable contributions to create a bigger impact and have more fulfillment in the actions of my life. So highly recommend check out that book review video below. Grab a copy. Like I said, it's towards the end of it, and it is so powerful. It's amazing. It's really focused on like how to give more to have ridiculous levels of happiness in your life, which is awesome. It's just about charity work. It's amazing. Really great stuff. So he sells his business And 2.5 years later, the people that bought his business basically drove it into bankruptcy. I mean, it was kind of crazy. And this is actually kind of funny because I was just trading Domino stock and made a whole boatload, which was super cool. But that stock wouldn't exist if Mana Khan didn't come back, which is exactly what happened. So he comes back after 2 years, new CEO of the same company, and he says, all right, let's get back to work, I guess. I mean, it's cool. I'll just keep doing the business. We're going to retire, but nah, who cares, right? And he has to develop the necessary determination early in his life to make this thing huge. So he has the skills. He can rebuild it. He can expand the organization. He's just a great entrepreneur. So because of that, he created 6,000 stores, 1,100 of those being outside of America. And this was just massive growth for him. So once the champ's back on his feet, Monaghan faced a new and serious challenge. And the problem was that they had this major promotion that they were going to get pizza into your door in 30 minutes or less, or it was free, right? 30-minute guarantee. Now, for those of you guys who are trying to study risk reversal and guarantees, and especially that stuff along the lines of getting everything you can out of all you've got, that's a really long title, because the guy gets everything he can out of everything, all he's got, which is awesome. But he looks at using this 30-minute guarantee as a way to make people more comfortable, because a lot of times they didn't want to buy pizza because the pizza was all soggy or it was cold when it got to their door. So they had this guarantee of 30 minutes or it's free, and that would increase, client happiness and satisfaction with the product, therefore increase consumption, increase sales. Basically, it was a great marketing tool, right? So he looks at getting everything he could out of all he's got. He says, this is 30-minute guarantee is the deal. But the problem was they got in a bunch of accidents of Domino's delivery drivers who were speeding to make the 30-minute deadline, which sucks. Family of a woman allegedly killed by a driver was awarded $3 million, which is terrible tragedy. Killed for pizza. And then the final blow came when I guess there was another lawsuit and another woman was hurt, and she was awarded $78 million. And after that, Domino's dropped the 30-minute guarantee, which sucks. They allegedly killed her, so I don't know. But despite this financial catastrophe, Mana Khan kept persisting, and he refused to give up. And he plowed through more money, time, and energy into the company. He brought it back to, once again, his persistence and positive attitude. Remember, this second part is really important. This idea of a positive attitude. Positive attitude is what's going to drive you through those sick days that are terrible, hard stuff to work through. Positive attitude. That's what gets you through. Positive attitude. That's what pushes you to success. That's what gets you that excellence. All comes down. That's the winning spirit that made Domino's the #1 in its industry. Huge success. So you can focus on this growth. He knew exactly where to persist, and he made it freaking happen. So, please keep this in your mind. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. You're ahead of so many people. He'll point it out here. If you ask people on the street, 98% of them have no long-term goals. They don't really know where they want to be in life. None of them have definite plans to get where they want to be, or the slightest indication of how they're going to attain anything that they wish for. Because riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans backed by defined desires through consistent and constant persistence. So you guys just being here, having your secret formula taken care of, you're ahead of 98% of people. And that's a fact. So congratulations, you're crushing it. This is amazing. We're going to go through these 4 principal development persistence strategies, and then we're going to be moving on. Sounds awesome. You guys are doing a great job. Let's freaking go. Let's go hard. Let's make it happen. All right? Sweet. So there are 4 simple steps that lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular level of education, nothing but a little bit of time, a little bit of effort. The necessary steps to persistence. These are your actionable steps. So take it, make it happen. Number 1. A definite purpose. Backed by burning desire for its fulfillment. Guys, I'm telling you, this is part of the secret formula. Just do your secret formula over and over and over. Refine your purpose, stick with your purpose, and create that burning desire through persistence and repetition. Number 2, a definite plan. Guys, not that tough. This is part 3 of the secret formula. Have a definite plan. Expressed in continuous action. This is really just your ability to stick with your daily journal and planning, right? So you use your daily journal, you're gonna plan, you're gonna budget time, and then this is also like your goals, your daily goals, and then just reflect on growth, right? 3 things to do with your daily journal. Those 3 things will easily get you into the mode of cycling and cycling up and up and up and up and up and up with continuous action as you fulfill your burning desire, as you fulfill your purpose. You absolutely crush it. So super powerful stuff there. Number 3, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influence. Ignore and avoid negativity. Oh my gosh, please, please, please. Can't let this hurt you. Gotta get away from negativity at any expense. Just get it out of your life, okay? Including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, acquaintances. Look, these guys might be trying to help you. Family might be trying to help you. These guys might love you, and that's awesome. And they might just want you not to hurt yourself, not to have pain in your life, and that's awesome. But if you really want to get out there and crush it and achieve that overarching long-term goal, you got to stand for yourself. You got to be true to you. At all costs, you have to avoid negativity. Okay? And run towards positivity by all means. Get yourself in front of positive people. Use them to grow. That's the most powerful way. It's all about positivity. A friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage you to follow through with both plan and purpose. Strategic partnership. Bam! Those 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. And the entire purpose of the principles of philosophy is to enable you to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. The best way to do that for these 2 up here is to just follow the secret formula. The best way to develop a strategic partnership is to constantly search for one in your daily work. Now this is last one, ignoring and avoiding negativity. That's a tougher one. That one took me a while to master, and this one requires mastery. I mean, people go to anger management. I know people in anger management, and I know some mean guys. At least I used to. I cut them out from my life a long time ago. And I mean, these guys, they had super big problem controlling their emotions, and they just were mad at people, and they're very negative, which sucks. You know, negative mindset, negative principles, terrible. So how do you avoid negativity the best way possible? Look, at a very fundamental level, and it's tough because it sucks, but you just have to cut them from your life. I had this one guy, he used to hang out with him, but he was just always negative, and he was a bad influence, doing drugs, he was out going hard on some really bad stuff, and just always negative environment, blaming other people for things that go wrong, blaming and blaming and complaining, never growing, always tearing others down. Hurtful, bad place to be. How do you avoid that? It sucked. This is the guy I went to school with. What did I have to do? I had to take myself and just freaking separate at all costs me from this other person. And once you do that, massive, massive growth, massive success, because you're able to grow yourself without having to pull this other person up with you. Because a lot of times people that are negative, it's just really difficult to help them, really difficult to change them. You can't change people. People have to change themselves. You can go through all the trainings if you want, but I mean, unless I sit down and coach you for 6 days, like, I don't know, it's just really difficult to change other people. It has to come from inside them. It's just, I know, you might want to change other people. You might want to save people from their own negativity, which is very nice. It's an amazing thing to do. But you got to focus on your own problems. It's just not your jungle to be messing around with. And other people, you just got to leave it. Another tough thing I had to do, I had this family member, and they were super negative. Things that they would say: "You're not special." When I was trying to do work, when I was trying to trade stocks, when I was literally trading 9 to noon, making ridiculous amounts of returns. I mean, huge profits. And they would be like, "Come downstairs or make a sandwich or something, or do this, menial thing." And it's like, I was busy, right? I was working, and what do you get? You're not special. You get a come down to our level, right? I started to hear stuff like, "You can't do that. You don't deserve." What did I have to do for years? I had to tune this person out. It was terrible, awful. And then just take them out, separate them from my life, and push apart as much distance between as possible. And it sucks. But you have to, at any cost possible, get negativity out of your life. And it comes from your family, it comes from your friends. I don't know where it comes from for you. But find those sources and just eradicate them. And it's painful. At the short term, it absolutely sucked to get away from this family member. Terrible. But it was just necessary. It just had to happen. There was no other way. It was holding me back. It was terrible. I hated it. But it was that mindset difference. It's that psychological shift. That need for growth to continue. You just can't let it happen if you're in restricting circumstances, and it freaking sucks. But you got to distance yourself from negativity, avoid it at all terms possible, and surround yourself with positive people. And only positive people. If you can do that, you're going to have massive success in anything you do. So you're going to be pulled up by your acquaintances. You're going to be pulled up by your peers, pulled up by your friends. And you're going to pull them up in return. It's a mastermind effect. It's this mastermind effect that we're going to talk about in the mastermind chapter. So powerful, so important. It all comes down to the good parts rather than the bad, and the positivity rather than the negativity. So please focus on these steps. Get exactly where you need to be. Get rid of negativity in your life. It's terrible. Hate it. All right? Sound good? Make sense? Super. Now, by applying these principles and turning them into a habit, these are the steps by which you may control your economic destiny. Now, who wants to control their economic destiny? I think that's pretty freaking cool. Now, what else can you do? Well, they are the steps that lead to freedom and independence of thought. Freedom and independence of thought. Those are pretty freaking good things to have, aren't they? So go back, screenshot those 4 things, whatever you need to do. Start applying them. Start going through with them. These are the steps that lead to riches. Either great or small, it all depends on what you ask of from the world, what you ask for in your overarching long-term goal. That's going to determine the amount of riches. So crush it with that, okay? These are the steps that lead to power, fame, and status. Worldly recognition, everything in your grasps. These are the steps that guarantee luck and easy breaks. This is the fundamental path that converts dreams into physical realities. It's all from this underlying 4 ways to create consistency. These are your steps that lead to the mastery of fear, discouragement, and indifference, so that all of a sudden you're able to fundamentally take hold of your life, those around you, the actions around you, the events around you, create exactly what you want, and destroy the parts of your life that you don't want, and get the result that you desire, right? Achieve that overarching long-term goal. Have massive success. Whatever you're doing. Also spell guarantee right, and you will be in the best place that you can be in the world. Sweet, cool, awesome. Now that we've got that, let's go and look at the magnificent reward for those who learn to take these 4 steps. This is a privilege to write your own ticket and make life yield whatever price is asked. Huge concept here. So, the difference between persistence and the capacity to master difficulties. It's all interweaved. The quality of persistence will set up in your mind a form of spiritual, mental, chemical activity that gives you access to the infinite intelligence, which will throw itself on the side of the person who fights on the bat after the battle's been lost, with the whole world on the opposing side. Just keep going, just keep rushing. It's just you against the world. You make it happen, you keep going, you keep pushing it harder and harder and harder to turn your dreams into physical realities. These and many other principles are what men like Henry Ford started from scratch to build an industry of huge proportions with little else in the way of beginning but persistence. Or Thomas Edison, who in less than 3 months of schooling became the world's leading inventor and converted persistence into the talking machine, the moving picture machine, the incandescent light, and hundreds of other useful inventions. Half 100 useful inventions. Looking at Edison, Ford, year by year over a long period, the opportunity to study the close range, Hill found no quality but persistence in either of them that even remotely suggested the major source of their stupendous achievements. These guys had nothing special. They were the same as you and I. What did they do? They followed the secret formula. They picked one thing to do, and they persisted on that plan for decades. That's how they had some of the biggest impacts and are now known as titans of industry. Because they just did it. They were successful people because of their inevitable conclusion that persistence, concentration of effort, and definiteness of purpose are the major sources of all achievements. You got that? Great. Now that you got that, we're gonna look at one more case study, which is super freaking cool. And then you guys are gonna be out there, ready to apply your definite purposes, ready to concentrate your effort, and ready to apply inevitable persistence. So there's this really amazing thing, and I've heard it a couple times after I've read Think and Grow Rich over and over, because people, they focus on the story a lot. It's about Howard Schultz. I'm really hoping on. He's a Starbucks man, right? Starbucks. And what happened was he was working at the Starbucks company, which was originally, they distributed bulk coffee. And he was a salesman. He's a manager, retail sales. He worked in a small outlet. When he was 29, they left their home in New York City to pursue a new opportunity. And that opportunity for them was to work at the Starbucks coffee distribution company. And so they go to work in Chicago. They go to work in Seattle. Woo, Seattle. That's pretty cool. And so they get to Seattle and they realize that, whoa, coffee. About a year later, Howard, he goes on behalf of his company to Italy. And I am not going to draw Italy, but if I was going to draw Italy, it would kind of look like this maybe. I don't know. Italy! Woohoo! So he goes to Italy, and he realizes that coffee is super huge for these Italians. And he's going around his trip, and he wandered around this city called Milan, and I have no clue where that is. He noticed how important coffee was to the Italian culture. Everyone was drinking coffee. They just had coffee, 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 woo, coffee. And this every work day would start with a cup of rich coffee at the bar. Then after work, they would come back to the coffee bar and group up together for a leisurely stop before heading home and just drink coffee. They had a bunch of coffee. I mean, these guys must have been super excited because they had a lot of coffee. I don't know. But basically, the coffee house was the center of Italian social life. And so Howard, he looked at this and he visualized applying this back over to the States. And another great drawing coming up right here. Bam! Look at that. Look at that. That's awesome. Texas right there. Texas. Yeah. And so he thinks, well, how can I kick this back to America? So he leaves, comes back home, goes to Starbucks, and starts to plan a new coffee bar chain so that they can add on to their wholesale coffee bean business. But the owners of Starbucks, they were not very into the whole idea. They were like, dude, we don't really care. We just want to sell coffee beans. So Howard goes off on his own. He leaves the company. He goes and he envisions hundreds of Starbucks coffee shops across America where business people would stop on their way to work, come home after work, and just relax. Go to work, come back. Just want to mimic that Italian lifestyle where a cup of Starbucks was a basic part of American culture. And his concept kind of paid off. It's really good sales. According to this, increasing ninefold every year since 1988, which is really cool. I wonder if that's still going on. I doubt it is. But people stop by and they have coffee. And so what he did is he opened a store in Seattle, and then after that he opened a store in Vancouver, and they opened another store in Seattle. So it was like Seattle times 2. And so he opens up these 3 stores, and he's like, you know what? I'm so cool. I'm the most successful guy ever. He goes out and he buys Starbucks. Remember, Starbucks was the company that like had the bulk coffee distribution channels. He buys Starbucks, and then that's where he gets the name from, and just takes that to market. He goes for years and years and years. For 3 straight years, he loses money. He lost more than $1 million in 1989 alone. And $1 million in 1989, that's probably more than $1 million today by a pretty sizable chunk. But he didn't give up. He had a firm conviction that this was the way to build a company and that the losses would soon turn into profits. Now take a break from the story and think about this for just a moment. This man went to Italy on one trip, and that one trip he made a decision that he was going to take responsibility for American coffee, and he was going to control this company that he just started working at for a couple years, and he was going to turn that into one of the largest coffee chains in the world to fundamentally shift the way individuals and professionals functioned, the way that they interacted after work, before work, the way that they consumed coffee, the way that they came together to socialize. Isn't that powerful? Isn't that great? And what happened after he failed for 3 years and lost over $1 million? That's a lot. What did he do? He made a decision in Italy, and he stuck by that decision. He did not waver. He did not change. He did not alter his path one iota. He said he was going to bring Italian coffee, Italian style, to the Americas, and that's exactly what he did. And it only came through persistence, through the toughest times, through the harshest of harshest, the darkest of darks. And then he started to see the dawn. Then he started to see the growth. Then he started to see the profits. Then Starbucks exploded. Now they're here today. Maybe they won't be here in a couple of decades. I don't know. Businesses change. But right now they're freaking huge. And it all comes from their individual ability. This one man and a mastermind of people that he worked with at Starbucks to actually grow and facilitate the company and the stores. This one idea turned into a multi-billion-dollar company. How awesome is that? This man thought and grew rich. That's the power. That's the change that you can have in your life. That's the message that comes from this overarching long-term goal. This idea of his, Like his idea that he wanted to make American coffee, I don't know exactly how he would personally word it, but he wanted to make American coffee, Starbucks coffee, a basic part of American culture. That's step 2 of the secret formula. Step 4 of the secret formula would be whatever his plan was to grow Starbucks and make Starbucks like everywhere. Part 3 was his deadline. Part 1 was his monetary desire guarantee. We got that. Massive profits. Once his Seattle stores are profitable, Starbucks spread slowly into other cities: Vancouver, Portland, Los Angeles, Denver, Chicago, and later to the eastern cities overseas. It has since become a household name all over the world and an exemplar of American marketing ingenuity. It made Howard one of the world's richest people. This is a prime example. Taking an idea, a seedling, and sticking with that idea for literally years and years and years and years and years. So much time. And that all comes from your ability to be persistent through decades. Decades, you might think decades are big. I'll tell you what, guys, decades are just an extension of years. Years are just an extension of months. Months are just an extension of days. People drastically underestimate what they can achieve in a decade and overestimate what they can achieve in a year. You can do so much in 10 years. So please, please, please. For me personally, my overarching long-term goals, they're decade goals. Very close to decade goals. They're a little bit more just because of when I set them, it was a little bit ago. So it's a little bit longer. That's the power that you can have. That's the impact you can have. This man built Starbucks from nothing more than an idea and massive initial losses. But he was persistent, and that persistence paid off. That persistence made him one of the greatest entrepreneurs, most successful individuals in corporate America. So powerful. It all comes from the formula, guys. Once you have your formula, all you have to do is be persistent and make it happen. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this module. Hope you got a ridiculous amount of value from it. Go out there and absolutely crush it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next module. Thanks.